The cobbled streets of Clifton Village hummed with the easy rhythm of weekend life. Tourists drifted between bookshops and cafes, locals chatted outside bakeries, and golden leaves skittered along the pavement like playful secrets. Daniel Carter strode through it all with the brisk confidence of a man who believed time was his to command. At 34, he wore his navy blazer like armor and his white shirt like a flag of efficiency, clean, sharp, untouchable. He had just wrapped a tense client call and needed coffee, stat. Patience wasn't on his agenda. Inside the loaf and ladle, the air was thick with the scent of sourdough and cinnamon. A short queue had formed at the counter. At its head stood Mr. Harold Finch, 72, his tweed flat cap tilted slightly forward, hands folded over a walking stick. His green cardigan was worn at the elbows, but his posture was straight, dignified, unhurried. He was ordering a single almond croissant, as he did every Saturday, a small ritual since his wife passed. Daniel didn't see a person. He saw an obstacle. Without a word, he stepped around Mr. Finch and planted himself at the counter. The barista, a young woman with dyed blue hair, blinked in surprise. Sir. There's a queue. I'll be 2 minutes, Daniel said, already scrolling through emails on his phone. Some of us actually have lives to get back to. Mr. Finch turned slowly. Young man, he said, voice calm but firm, I was next. Daniel barely glanced up. Know your place, Grandad. The words hung in the warm bakery air like smoke. A few customers exchanged glances. Someone cleared their throat. Mr. Finch's eyes didn't waver, but his knuckles whitened around his walking stick. From a wrought iron bench across the street, Marcus Bell watched. Broad-shouldered, salt and pepper stubble, dressed in a charcoal Henley and dark jeans, he'd been sipping tea and observing the flow of people, part of his informal work mentoring teens from the local youth center. He'd seen arrogance before. But this was carelessness masquerading as confidence. And it cut deeper because it was so casual. Marcus crossed the street, not with anger, but with quiet purpose. He stopped a few feet from Daniel, close enough to be heard, far enough not to crowd. You owe that man more than silence, Marcus said, voice low but carrying. Daniel finally looked up, irritation flashing across his face. Excuse me? You disrespected him. In public. Now you've got a choice. Marcus didn't raise his voice. Either you turn around right now and apologize, properly, or I walk in there with you and explain to everyone what just happened. Not to shame you. But so you understand that respect isn't optional. Daniel scoffed. Are you serious? Who even are you? A man who believes how we treat strangers says everything about who we are, Marcus replied evenly. Your call. For a moment, Daniel considered brushing past. But something in Marcus's gaze, the steadiness, the lack of theatrics, unsettled him. This wasn't a confrontation, it was an invitation to do better. And worse, people were watching. The barista. The couple by the window. Even the elderly woman with the pug. His pride warred with a sudden, unfamiliar prick of shame. He turned slowly toward Mr. Finch, who met his eyes without malice, only quiet expectation. Daniel swallowed. His throat felt tight. He paused, cleared his voice. I was rude. You didn't deserve that. I was in a rush, but that's no excuse. He forced himself to hold the older man's gaze. I'm sorry. The silence stretched for 3 heartbeats. Then Mr. Finch gave a small, almost imperceptible nod. Thank you, he said gently. Manners cost nothing, son. Daniel nodded back, mumbled another apology to the barista, and left without his coffee. Outside, the autumn sun felt less forgiving. That evening, Daniel sat alone in his Westbury Park flat, the city lights blinking beyond his window. The encounter replayed in his mind not just the words, but the weight behind them. He thought of his grandfather, long gone, who'd waited patiently in queues during wartime rationing, always tipping his hat to shopkeepers. Decency isn't weakness, the old man used to say. It's the backbone of civilization. Daniel opened a new notebook, part of a half-hearted self-improvement kick he'd started last month. He wrote, "Today I treated someone like they didn't matter. Because I was stressed. Because I thought I was important. Neither excuse is cruelty. Respect isn't earned, it's given. Especially when it's easy not to." He realized his impatience wasn't about time. It was about control. And his sharp tongue. A shield against feeling small in a world that demanded constant performance. A week later, Daniel returned to Clifton Village. Not for coffee this time, but clarity. He walked slower, noticing things he'd missed before: the way sunlight caught the stained glass of the chapel, the laughter spilling from the pub garden, the elderly couple sharing a bench with a thermos between them. At the Loaf and Ladle, he bought 2 almond croissants. One for himself. One wrapped neatly in parchment paper. Outside, there he was, Mr. Finch, sitting on his usual bench, reading a dog-eared copy of Pride and Prejudice, his green cardigan buttoned against the chill. Daniel approached, heart thudding strangely. He held out the package. "Afternoon, Mr. Finch." The older man looked up, surprised, then smiled faintly. "Daniel, isn't it?" "Yes, sir." Daniel sat on the far end of the bench, giving space. I wanted to make it right. Properly." Mr. Finch accepted the croissant. "You already did last week. But thank you." He unwrapped it carefully. "You know, my wife used to say people are like bread, best when shared, never when hoarded." They talked then not about the incident, but about Clifton's changing streets, the best spot to watch hot air balloons during the festival, the stubbornness of British weather. No grand speeches. Just 2 men, one young and learning, one old and wise, sharing silence and pastry in the golden afternoon. As Daniel walked home, he didn't check his phone once. He watched a child chase a leaf down the pavement, heard a busker playing a folk tune off-key but with joy, smelled wood smoke curling from a chimney. The world felt softer, richer. He hadn't been punished in the traditional sense. No fines, no shouting, no physical consequence. But Marcus's quiet intervention had done something deeper. It had cracked open Daniel's certainty, letting humility seep in. And from that crack, something better could grow. Later that night, he added to his journal, "Real strength isn't in never falling. It's in having the courage to kneel, to apologize, to listen, to change. Today, I chose to kneel. And somehow, I stood taller for it. In the weeks that followed, Daniel began volunteering at the same youth center where Marcus mentored. He didn't talk about his lesson often, but sometimes, when a teenager rolled their eyes at an elder or snapped at a peer, Daniel would lean in and say quietly, "Manners cost nothing, you know." And if they asked why he cared, he'd just smile and say, "Because someone once reminded me, when I least deserved it, that I still mattered. And so do you." And in that simple exchange, respect lived on not as a rule, but as a ripple.